Shorty, shorty, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. Hey! Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Witches and Wine. This is the show where we talk about witchy stuff and we drink wine. Clink and drink. Clink and drink.
We can drink.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, I always get surprised. I like to take my first sip while we're recording because that's authentic yumminess face. All right, I'm your hostess with the mostest, Lola Stardust. And before we get started, I always like to do our disclaimer. It has been brought to our attention that, well, our show is called Witches and Wine, and it has been brought to our attention that sometimes people don't like watching witches talk and drink, and they just don't like that combination. We have a really good way to get rid of that. There is an X in the corner of your screen, and all you got to do is click it, and it disappears. It's like magic.
Yep, the power is yours.
The power is yours. You have free will. All right, so before we get to these awesome people that I am just like so excited, yes, you, Mr. and Mrs., I'm going to turn this over. We're going to talk about the wine tonight with my husband, my partner in crime, my high priest. It's our 14th wedding anniversary today. Thank you. Silent as Stardust. Tell us about the wine.
Oh, I'll be happy to. We got good wine tonight.
Good wine. Good wine for good guests.
Amazing wine for amazing guests.
Yes.
Tonight I have chosen the Bel Canto from Cadence Vineyards here in Washington State. This is a Merlot Cab Franc blend. Absolutely wonderful. Just beautiful, beautiful darkness.
Beautiful darkness.
Very smooth, dry, earthy. Lots of Cab Franc, which we always love. Not an inexpensive bottle, gonna run you $65, $70 a bottle. So definitely a dinner time wine,
or a celebration
wine between our guests and our anniversary. We wanted to have
a special wine,
a special bottle for you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely wonderful. If you're into Bordeaux style wines, you're gonna really, really enjoy this.
Heavy, very heavy.
Yeah, but not tannic.
Yeah.
So just awesome.
Good wine.
Good wine.
Well, thank you, honey. They can drink some good wine. Whoa, that was good crystal sound.
I got the crystal out too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we went full falutin.
We are bougie for you guys. We are bougie. All right, I'm so excited for our guests. So we have such a connection with them. I love the Hearth, where they're from. I love the rituals they do that I've attended, and I just love these two.
Yep.
They are Coven goals. I really, really admire both of you so much. We've got Darrell and Minty from the Evergreen Hearth. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead and just tell us about yourself. You don't need to tell all the mucky muck titles. Whatever you want to do. Just say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm awesome.
I preach this first.
Yeah.
Hi, I am Minty. People thought that putting me in a leadership position was somehow a good idea, and somehow it's worked.
Yes. It's awesome. It's awesome. You are a very powerful high priestess. I feel it when I watch you online. I'm just telling him, I'm like, she is powerful for a little thing.
Well, we've seen her in person at some of the festivals, yes, and seen her energy and her strength come through. And
you intimidated me when you were the Fates, I believe, or the Furies.
Furies.
You the shit out of me, Minty.
The fact that I made Orion Fox would jump out of his skin.
And your lovely husband there. Who's this good-looking guy?
I'm Darrell Delph. I am the high priest of the Evergreen Hearth. I'm also the summoner for the ATC Mother Church, Coven. And I've got several other job titles that are really boring that have to do with the seminary and the international church. So, that's not the Hearth.
Well, you still do a lot for the community and for the ATC, and that's amazing. And we love what you do.
And appreciate it.
We appreciate it, yeah. So I want to talk about we've told this story so many times, but I think it's important. Our first Spring Mysteries we went to is when we met, and it was the Spring Mysteries that you proposed to your wife. So we hadn't really known you that well, and it was so beautiful, and we felt very privileged to be there and witness that, and it just made us feel like, oh. So and that's all I can say is oh. But I hadn't gotten him to the dark side yet of witchcraft. He was still like, yeah, I like your thing.
I was supportive of her, but it hadn't spoken to me. I'd enjoy going to her Coven's public events and being around other people in the craft, but I was like, man, religion.
Yeah, he was just kind of. And then we went to our first Spring Mysteries together, and Darrell was Poseidon, and it changed my husband's life to talk to Darrell, to talk to Poseidon in that form, in that way.
And she saw me. When I walked out of the cabin, and she was like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "We need to talk."
We need to talk. And I was like, "What?" And he just said, "I felt a connection with Poseidon," and and for the next few days, he was like, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
This is where I want to be. So I always thank you, because, as much as I didn't push him into being a witch, and nobody did, it's easy when we're both on the same page. And so it made a lot. It was awesome. How do you feel when that happens, Darrell? I know you have held so many, you the vessel for so many. That's got to feel good to hear these stories, right?
Well, I was at the seminary when you introduced yourself to me, going, "It's me, Lola." I'm like, "Hi."
Yeah.
You changed my husband's life. I'm like, right on. I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
Because as a vessel for deity at the festivals, I'm pretty much put off to the side and used as a skin suit. So the people that need to get the messages from the gods get the messages from the gods. And apparently you got the message.
Oh, yeah. And I've gotten to experience that on the side of going and talking to the vessels. And now this past Spring Mysteries was my first time on cast. So I've still have people coming up to me saying, "Oh my gosh, when I talked to you in the shrine, Hecate said this and this, and I want to follow you, and please tell me more about Hecate, and what can I do for you?" And I'm like, "What the hell did I say to you?" Like,
and that's a very important thing there.
Yeah.
Because it does feel really good to know that as the vessel, I was able to help somebody connect with deity, but none of those conversations are present in my conscious memory.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they can regale me with what was said and what was done, and I'll sit there and write with them going, right on, but it wasn't a message for me directly.
Yeah.
There's only one deity I've worked with where he pushed me up front for two of my visitors, and that was when it was Hades.
Interesting.
Because I had two people that were asking permission for something and they needed help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and we got them help, and they're amazing people today still.
Good. Well, it always, one of the times I held Hecate for my old coven, I held her for about an hour, and I don't remember what I said to any of the people. And then about 3-4 weeks later, one of my old coven members came by and said, "So I took your advice, and I started my business." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
I gave you no advice.
I'm like, "I never gave you job advice." And she's like, "No, Hecate did, and said go for starting your business." And I'm like, "Oh," and she's like, "It's successful." And I was like, because then I'm like, oh, like,
First of all, why were you coming to me for advice?
I know.
Have I told you about work history?
Yes. Do you know my history? But yeah. So it's very validating to hear that, and I've watched you two because of pandemic. you know, I did get to be in person with you. We got to know you in person, but with pandemic and everything being online, I try to make as many of your rituals online, and you guys just do. So I don't know what it is about the hearth, your coven, but there is something that is so authentic and powerful and just celebratory. Those are the words I think of when I think of what you do. Why don't you tell us about Evergreen Hearth? So our viewers, because we keep bringing up the hearth. Tell us about Evergreen Hearth.
And the pickles.
And oh my God,
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Hearth first, then pickles.
And then pickles, yeah.
Me. Okay, so the Hearth started off as kind of an idea back in 2014. Darrell and I were both doing our first year at Evergreen together. And we've been seeing a bunch of posters all around for Evergreen Pagans. Let's all gather together on Samhain. And so we all gathered together. Now, those of you who know what Samhain 2014 is will understand the significance of this event. Darrell and I had no idea until we got back to our dorm rooms and we saw the purple ribbon on Facebook.
That's Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Pete,
Yep.
That's when he.
So after forming this club of our own volition, we're sitting in my dorm room and Darrell and I just kind of look at each other and go, so we're starting a coven, right? We're starting a coven. So we're carrying on his legacy, right? We're carrying on his legacy.
Yeah.
So that Spring Mysteries rolls around because that was our my second year was his something or other year.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, let's start a group. And people are like, little girl, is this your dad? And I'm like,
So, can you comment on that?
We have commented on it. When
That first Spring Mysteries, we were concerned.
we were like,
you know,
yeah,
you are not the first people to
yeah,
say that. And the thing is, I used to get really upset over it because I don't like being infantilized. Like, I'm not a baby, that. But now I've taught myself to kind of come from a position of these people care enough about me to be concerned, and I thank them for that.
That's a great way to look at it. But I mean, it didn't take long to figure out. You
Yeah.
know, we were like, oh, Minty, you just look younger than your age. And you know what? Be happy with that. You are going to age so beautifully. So
Yeah, I'll get to that story in a minute. One time I'm hanging out with my girlfriends and we're talking about our families. I'm like, yeah, my mom's in like her mid-60s. It's like, you're shitting me. No, I shit poo.
No.
But anyway, so we're like, hey, we want to start a group. And they're like, hi, who are you? And so we start showing up at these events and they're like, so you need to jump through all these hoops. And we're like, that's funny. No, we're not jumping through any hoops. We're starting this. Like, but you're breaking the law. Law schma, we're Evergreen students. We don't follow rule books.
I was going to say, yeah, right, yeah.
And then we decided, we were like, hey, so we already have this group. Can we please be an affiliate already? And they're like, okay, but we need to have somebody from our group come down and show you guys how we do things our way. I'm like, all right, fine. So this person came down and was kind of being our intern high priestess and all this stuff was going on. And then some shenanigan went down and Bella decided like, hey, I need to listen in on how you guys put together events. And I am a bossy little bitch. Like, anyone who knows me knows this. So I'm just taking the reins, being like, okay, so this thing is happening at my house. Therefore, okay, does this person have this down? Does this person have this down? Okay, we need to make sure the music is together. Darrell's in charge of that. Who's got the food? Okay, you got the food. And Bella's sitting there going, these people already have a leader. Hey, Minty, how do you feel about being a high priestess? Me, what?
Yeah.
Here, God, I'm gonna die.
I just want to tell people what to do. I didn't know there was a job for that.
There's a title?
A title in the
Pretty much. And then people are going around calling me Hearth Mom because I said to one person, don't make me get out my mom voice as a joke, and it stuck. And so now I'm basically just the bossy mom figure.
What's your sign, Minty?
Scorpio.
Scorpio. Oh, yes. Do you
Scorpio
have any?
Sun, Scorpio Rising, Scorpio Mercury, Scorpio Mars.
Holy Moses. Well, there's that.
I'm just with that.
Scorpios are very good at running things, but the emotional part, does that get to you?
I am the biggest crybaby I know.
Well, I might give you a run for your money on that.
She does have the moniker of Leaky Lola.
I'm known as Leaky Lola. Now that sounds kind of sexy. It's not that kind of leaky.
Yeah, the thing is that I angry cry. People are like, Minty, why are you sad? I'm not sad. It's just that this person's not worth the jail time.
I'm the same way. I cry when I'm angry. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm frustrated. Yeah, I get it. I have a Pisces moon, so that explains that. So yeah,
You want that crier?
I cry a lot.
So yeah, and it just kind of escalated from there. And then going on to the pickles.
Yes,
Yeah.
the pickles.
Oh, the pickles.
So the pickling thing actually was a family tradition of my mom and I. Me, my mom, and my grandma, every year from the time I was maybe like 9 or 10 years old, actually like maybe 8 years old, we would go up to Bellevue with all our supplies and just spend all day making pickles late into the night until we were done.
Wow.
Get there, we keep working, and we work until all those pickles are put away and jarred. Not a cucumber goes to waste.
Oh, yeah.
And so this one night we're all at D&D and we're just sitting there and people are getting hungry and it's like, all right, here, let's get some pickles out. And we start passing the jar around. And it gets to the point where people are drinking the brine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people, because this is when the Coven was first starting to kind of really take off. We're like, okay, we need a Llamas event. Do we want to just do pickle making? Like, all right, cool. I'll ask mom for the family recipe and see what we can do.
Yeah.
And it took off. And people started passing them around. And then Spring Mysteries came around. We brought some pickles with us. And Ryan had the brilliant idea of chopping one of the pickles up and serving little samples because that first hit's always free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of
And
course.
it just has escalated from there. And now it's one of those things where people are fighting for our pickles.
Oh my gosh. We just had Hearth pickles at the ATC. I think
Yeah,
they had a couple jars.
They cracked a fresh jar.
And the first thing we said is, "Are these Hearth pickles?" And they go, "Yes." And we went, I mean, all of us were like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Oh.
Where we took some Hearth pickles home from Mysteries a few years ago.
Oh
and
my God.
We took a few jars and it was not enough.
It just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. Yes. The pickles. People watching, Hearth pickles. When you hear Hearth pickles, these are the best freaking pickles I've ever tasted. We love pickles. Too.
Yeah.
We are pickle lovers.
Now, did I hear a rumor you guys are bringing a whole flat of them next year?
Hopefully, maybe. Is this just a
to
rumor?
Mysteries?
So when it comes to bringing pickles, are we talking like to events or just to the tab in general?
Well, I heard from Mysteries next year's
Okay.
Mysteries.
So
Okay.
here's a clarifying point. Because we're an affiliate, we need to pre-sell all the pickles that people want to consume, so we're not competing with the vendors at festival.
Because we got in trouble one sickle for that because we had a bunch of pickles left over and my ass jumped the gun and was like, I don't want these in my truck on the way home. Peoples, give me your money.
So
Yeah.
at the Norse sickle,
I was at that sickle. Yep.
all the halls that the Hearth members were in charge of, we were running it Viking style. I made round shields, fighting round shields.
Yeah.
And sold them. We had flags, we had drinking horns, we had everything under the sun for sale.
Yeah.
Because it was just a fundraiser for the church. So
Yeah.
I was like,
And we kind of got in trouble for that. I don't regret it. I don't regret it a second.
Because people liked your product so well and it kind of blew the other vendors to the side.
the majority of the pickle sales actually happened after the vendor hall was closed because everybody was getting their cleaning deposit back, and we were like $10 a jar.
That was
Well,
brilliant.
Look, you have money. I have pickles.
That was brilliant. That was when I first tried your pickles, I believe. I think that it. Yeah, I brought those, but that was from Sickle.
No,
I brought
but
them. No, we did Spring Mysteries before.
Yeah, we tried them before that.
We've tried them before. But yes, that I was there, and it was almost like I have never seen so many people when someone said Hearth pickles. I have never seen so many people run with money in their hand for pickles. For pickles, people. These are pickles. This isn't magic beans. This isn't ecstasy or LSD.
Or is it though?
Well, it might be. This is pickles. Pickles.
But aren't many people looking for a magic pickle?
What a bunch. Evergreen Hearth. So Evergreen Hearth is, I like how I just segue. Evergreen Hearth is the church, right?
Mhm,
Okay.
That's correct.
So does your church affiliate
Or is your coven?
or is your coven affiliated with Evergreen Hearth, or is the Evergreen Hearth affiliated with ATC? How does that work? Explain that to me.
Okay. The Evergreen Hearth is an affiliate church of the ATC.
Okay.
Okay.
The working priesthood at the Hearth is the Keepers of the Flame.
Yes.
In the Keepers of the Flame, we have eclectic witches and we have wise traditional witches. And we have some general pagans. They want to be active in the priesthood. They want to contribute. That's what is necessary for work in the coven.
Okay.
So, like Amelia,
Yeah.
you've seen her on cast several times. She is just pagan.
Okay.
Okay.
She's not Wiccan. She just steps up and does roles.
Okay.
So she's
Happy to
not
be included. Happy to help.
So let me make sure. So the church Evergreen Hearth, you have, I'm assuming you have more people involved with the Hearth than you do with the Coven. The Coven is more, and that's the wise tradition. Your Coven does the wise tradition, correct?
The majority of the coven is wise tradition.
How
So
does that work?
Is that for those who are trying to elevate and become
yes,
The ones who are on initiatory elevation paths are wise tradition.
Okay.
'cause
That
that's the only path that we provide.
Got
If
it.
they want to just be a Wiccan and study how they want and observe everything, that's fine too.
So
That is
but-
so
but
cool.
you said Wiccan, but you said you have some that are pagan, so but they're part of the coven. So how does that differentiate, I guess, is what we're trying to get to.
We're picking your brains. See, I know you probably weren't expecting it. It's because we love how you run things, and we're
curious.
curious, and we like to take information and see how we can apply that, maybe how we run things too. So
Well, those that are willing to do the work come together.
yes.
So the coven is this. The Keepers of the Flame is a little bit bigger than that because there's people in there that want to work with the coven but don't want to be
Okay.
the coven.
Clergy.
Yes,
Okay.
they want to work in clergy or support clergy. And outside of that is the church and all the lay members that we supply and provide in our greater community.
Okay.
So you've got your church, and then it's almost like you've got the outer court, and then the coven is the inner court, right? Is that kind of how it works?
I wouldn't necessarily use the word court, but
It's traditional
Yes.
witchcraft term that I
Yeah.
can relate
Yeah.
my brain
And
around.
then we have the core officers, your high priest, your high priestess, the summoner, and the maiden.
Okay.
And so you got that, you got the coven, you got the greater coven, and then you have the church.
Okay. That's really
Yep.
actually quite brilliant. And you are all like a well-oiled machine. How do you do that? How do you get to that? Are you glamoring us? Because I'm an outsider looking in. You guys really seem to have
we caused a bit of controversy at first because of how we do things. Like we're constantly causing controversy. At this point, I'm just like, okay, whatever.
I love it.
We like it.
We like it.
But I have always been really big on clear, open communication with everyone, and we are all here to help each other out. There was one instance, I think it was like our second Llamas monologues that we brought people to, and we caused a bit of controversy with some people because when our people came down from their invocations, we were there to catch them when they fell and help them ground and get back to where they need to be. All right, you good? Okay, you're good.
Yeah.
And it's like, but they need to be able to handle their own energy and carry themselves. Yes, that's true, but that doesn't mean we need to let them crash and fall on their face.
Exactly.
Everyone is here to help each other out. We need to make sure that people are safe. We can't be just letting people run around willy-nilly. We need to be there to catch people when they fall, help people out. If someone needs guidance on something, be there to help them. We're always big with everyone in our group, the first question you should always ask is, what can I do to help you? What is it that you need from me? Do you need this or do you need this? Which kind of leads me into some other stuff on balancing how that works. Because, for example, someone might be having a bit of a crisis and see, okay, do you need advice or do you need me to be an ear to listen to help you ground?
And I like that. And that's what we were talking about before we started filming, was keeping that balance of the wearing the hats. And because we are such a small coven, we all are really good friends, right? And we do stuff together socially together that has nothing to do with the coven. We just like to hang out with each other a lot.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like the concept of when I did have jobs. Cole, can you make sure she doesn't knock that stuff over? Your kitty sitter. Our 13-year-old is the kitty sitter. It's like when I was a manager at a job or a supervisor at a job, and I would, I'd have the people I would supervise, but then we would go out on Friday night and go out drinking and clubbing, and sometimes doing things that maybe you wouldn't want your supervisor to see you doing, but I was there doing that with them. There was that boundary of how are they going to respect me when they just saw me that weekend getting down with them, and then we come back to work and I'm bossing them around. Well, not bossing them. Okay, bossing them around. I'm telling them what to do, and they're like, hey, Lola, come on, whatever. You were throwing up over the side of my deck last night, and now you expect me to go,
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do expect you to do that, because that is when we're here.
Yep.
It's the same thing with the coven. It's like, yeah, we all tell each other everything. And I process a lot of my, what I'm thinking about, what I'm going through, because sometimes I just need just a sounding board to just vent to. And I know that it's there for me. But then when it comes to making decisions later, they're like, oh, that wasn't the decision I thought you were going to make about our coven. And it's like, no, but because I got to sound this off on you, I'm going the other way. And sometimes it's people get a little taken aback, or you know what I'm saying? Like there's surprise decision. I talked to Mary Malinsky about this too, and she's like, balance, you got to keep that balance. And so I wanted to know how you two did that. And I like your first question is, how can I help you? How can we help you?
Yeah. There's been
priestess.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been instances where one of my members will be having an issue coming to me kind of in minor crisis mode or major crisis mode. It's like okay, do you need to talk to your high priestess? No. Okay, do you want to talk to your best friend? Yes. Okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm doing good.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I might say, is this the friend hat? Is this the high priestess hat?
Another really useful tool that I use for myself and for my coven mates in general is the phrase, I need you to be Spock. So something that I was taught in therapy when I was young is basically a kind of mindfulness practice of balancing Kirk and Spock and basically trying to kind of logic your way through this. So there'll be times and I use it with my coven mates and my coven mates use it with me. It's like hey, I need you to be Spock for me on something, and here's what my thought process is. And that person will go, okay, so logically, here is what the situation most likely is. And helping someone kind of logic your way through things. And that has helped resolve a lot of conflict.
And we've used that where I use a lot more logic.
Cat just knocked over stuff, honey, that you were supposed to be watching. Sorry, this is what happens when we record live.
Yep.
Sorry.
It's live. No edit.
He just knocked over your tap.
We'll use that, do you need us to help talk you through it, or do you need a hug and just need to cry it out?
Yeah.
Because based on what that answer is, you come to me or you come to Lola.
Yeah.
If you just need someone to talk it out with you and give you the yays, nays, and we as clergy enjoy being devil's advocate because we have to make sure they're looking at all angles.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where you're just like, you just need to cry this out.
You just need to cry and you need a hug.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just let it out. Here's a shoulder.
Yeah.
Go.
And we also have members in our coven that are really good for me because I have our scribe. She's you know who she is. I'm going to mention her because she will be watching this when we premiere this or watch. Yeah. Danielle Madhouse. She is really wonderful at bouncing off that because sometimes I'll be in like the high priestess needs some girl talk, or the high priestess needs to see the bigger picture sometimes, because sometimes I'm just running on emotions and I'm just like, and I know I am. I'm like, oh, I am making judgments based on pure emotion. And sometimes those judgments are not working out well. I call her up and I'm like, talk me through this. And she's really good at saying, okay, well, there's this. She's Libra rising. So, so there you go. I don't need it. So she's very good at like weighing out all of it. And then it makes me feel better. Like, yes, you're right. I am looking at these things. I'm not losing my mind. Thank you. Yeah. So the relationships with your coven mates, they're amazing, and they can be complicated and they can be scary, and
All be individualized.
and yes,
Just because each person needs something different and offers something different, you can't do a catch-all theory. You have to find out how you're going to connect with that person to make your connection the strongest and your magic the most powerful.
Can I point out that I love that, and now remember, and Darrell, you might be able to relate because you're 50. Was I supposed to say that? I'm 49. We're from a different generation, but we're always evolving to embrace newer ideas, and I appreciate, like, when you did, I saw your ritual online, the priestess, how you use priestess. I never in a million years would have thought to use that, because I don't have anyone that would identify better with that. But it's nice to see it because it educates this old lady.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of spectrum when it comes to the projective and receptive energies and how they're balanced. And a lot of people don't identify with one or the other, so there has to be a term for that. And fortunately, somebody came up with a term for that, introduced me to it. So I took it to the mother church and took it to the international church, going, how are we going to recognize this?
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's why I love your coven, is because I'm a Capricorn. I'm stubborn. Okay. I come from a place like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. That doesn't always work, because that keeps you stagnant. And I know that. And I'm working with that. I'm like, gotta go with the flow, Lola. You gotta hear what's going on. And so I kind of go to your coven because you guys are really good at being inclusive with all that. It's not that we're not inclusive, it's just we've never had to be. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Yeah.
The opportunity hasn't availed itself.
It hasn't, but if it does,
we're open to it.
We're open to whoever, but then we'll know, what do you want to be called? What energy do you prefer? How do you prefer to call this energy? Please,
which pronouns are you comfortable with?
Yes.
So on and so forth. Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess it's another nice thing about going to Evergreen State College and being in that energy and learning how to just, okay, what do you need?
Yes. And I like that that's kind of the energy I get from both of you, is what do you need? It's very comforting. And I think overall that is why I love you two, your energy, because just because Minty is younger than me doesn't mean that I can't recognize that she is a nurturer and wants to be a caretaker. I would feel comfortable as a woman probably twice your age. I don't know, a lot older. I don't know.
27.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, almost, but that I would feel like I would not hesitate if I was having a moment. And even as a third degree and you're a second degree, that doesn't mean anything to me. I know when it comes to this, the relationship, because you're nurturing, especially now with being a mother. That's where I see the change. And I saw the change in Darrell's. That's what we were talking about earlier. I saw the change in Darrell, your Zeus, because you did Zeus twice. I've seen both your Zeuses.
Mm-hmm.
Your first Zeus, yes, Zeusy Zoo. Your second Zeus was
The All-Father.
It was dad. It was dad, and that connected with me on a level. That's what we were trying to say earlier before we recorded, is how has it changed? Maybe you don't see it, but we see it,
yeah,
and it's a beautiful, beautiful change.
Yeah, there was a lot less loud thunderer with the sleeping baby.
With that too.
But you know, sometimes you just need to let it out.
Yes. Semantics. Yeah, it's
And that was the thing the first time I held Zeus. Because my blessing, because the tongue-in-cheek joke about the Zeus blessing, I had several people at the first time I was Zeus. It's like, you know, they were having problems. They were in the middle of transition, and they didn't have the support of their family or whatever. And just to have this person give you a big hug and whisper to you, I'm so proud of you.
yes.
You are my magical child. And you have overcome every challenge. I could not be there to prevent these challenges, but you are so strong. I am so proud of you. And those people are still in contact with me.
Absolutely.
Well,
And
Good.
I have been the high priest of the Temple of Hades, Poseidon,
Yep.
and Zeus.
The brothers.
Once somebody steps up for Poseidon or Hades, I will relinquish those titles and just focus on the Temple of Zeus. Because the first year I held Zeus, he was really not happy. He didn't want to come across as a misogynistic, womanizing person. You already have a bad example of that leading your country.
Huh?
Yeah. So that's why in that year it was all about Hera is right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Zeus was deferring to Hera.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was my first time being on cast when I was with you behind the scenes.
Or staff.
Yeah. And I was behind the scenes, and I was getting a whole different energy and vibe from you that was much more like, you know what? I'm tired of being the clown, the clown prince, so to speak.
Yeah.
And looked at this way, and I want to be revered and not be the one that's the butt of every joke
And show the love for his wife.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And an important thing that came up before rehearsal started for that first year of Zeus, I was approached by an elder in the community that was concerned about me holding Zeus.
Why?
Don't be defensive. Let me tell my story.
Well, I'll be defensive. You can tell your story.
She wants to protect you, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
So
love
the
it.
thing was, there's some perceptions that people have about the older man and the younger woman dynamic.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And a lot of my coven is young.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the old man.
Yeah.
So the concern was that when they held Zeus, they were taken aside by a young, pretty thing and was not available for several hours, and everybody was looking for them. And they were really concerned because of my reputation and what I'm around all the time that might happen.
Oh, good Lord.
And I gave him a hug, and I told him, I'm so proud of you.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're willing to speak their truth.
They were willing to speak their truth and show concern.
Yes.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that year, I think the only time it has been more G-rated at our home was the year that he was Hades and I was Charon.
Well, I was going to ask you. We keep hearing about all the forms that Darrell's held. What has been your favorite vessel for?
So I don't really know if I could pick a favorite. Like they've all been really exciting in their own way.
One that spoke to you or has the most residual effect?
That's kind of changed something in you.
And again, that's kind of hard to pick just one. They all have had some pretty profound effects. The first role I ever held was a merfolk, and it was fun being in the energy, but I was also kind of having to be the Poseidon kind of caretaker the entire time because Poseidon was having an existential crisis every single night.
That's what
It's like,
Poseidon-
it's 3 a.m. I have an exam in the morning, honey. Please go to sleep. But and then after that, Charon was really important for me at the time that I held him. The entire year was just like, honey, I love you. Don't touch me. Honestly, I could probably do like an entire standard routine of just every single role that I've held. But I think one of the crowning hilarity bits that ever happened when I was holding Charon was very early on in the year. And so our bedroom and bathroom are connected to each other, so we don't have to go very far to go pee. So it's the middle of the night, and I had to get up and go potty. So I did that. I come back out, and Darrell, who is dead asleep, pawing at the space where I was in the bed, like, oh, great, here we go. He's dreaming again. So I get in bed, and all of a sudden, cling, and I hear, don't leave, Persephone, your mother doesn't need you. And now Minty is going, oh, honey, shh, you're dreaming. You're not actually my husband. Go to sleep. Charon thinking, boss, please stop. This is weird.
There are regulations against this.
Please don't make me go to HR. The seasonal temp worker.
Right? Yeah.
I want to see what the HR department looks like there.
Yeah. What is that, HR?
Persephone.
Persephone.
Persephone is the head of HR.
Oh, that makes sense.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
The seasonal temp worker.
She gave them all a voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think my favorite thing with Aphrodite, one, torturing Bella backstage, because I was covered in glitter from head to toe, and I'm just playing with the baubles. I had these really sparkly platform shoots, and I was just turning them slowly back and forth backstage, and Arabella is just looking at me like, me.
And
That's what we were stage managers.
and your Aphrodite was interesting because we'd seen you previously as a Fury.
I saw you as a Fury.
And then so the next year I see you and you're running the Aphrodite ritual, and I'm thinking, well, she not like last year.
Yeah.
And then I threw Dusty across the stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was completely unintentional.
Yeah.
We were just thinking about having to like just move out of the way, and instead it was yay.
Well, we were stage. Okay, so we were stage manager, the stage managers on site for when you were Aphrodite. The year before that, we were helping Isadora as stage manager, and you were a Fury. And I remember we had set up some stuff on the stage for getting prepared and stuff like that. And there was the Furies. You all came in. And you were invoked. And you were doing something else.
I was behind stage.
Well, this wasn't during a performance. This was like an hour before where everyone
I was grabbing something, moving something.
And yeah, he was our lifter. And I was sitting there with Isadora, and we're going over the script, and the Furies come in, and you're all just kind of walking around, and I'm going, okay, Furies. And Minty is like walking around, sitting, staring, and just doing this shit. And I'm going, and I just kind of scooted closer to Isadora. I was like,
You want the energy of say one word.
say one word.
Just do it.
So, for a bit of comedic relief here, the main phrase that we used to get Electo pumped up was, "You stole my Milky Way."
I take it you like Milky Ways.
Yes, Milky Way Midnight specifically. Regular Milky Ways, whatever. Milky Way Midnight. Oh, who is she?
Yeah. That's awesome. Hey, I want to talk real quick about your guys' path because I don't know. Maybe other people know, but I want to know.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this? What brought you to the pagan path? Darrell?
I was born and raised.
That's what I was gonna say.
I just found that out today. About
He
you.
didn't know that.
I did not know that.
I
Yeah.
told like yeah,
So both my parents were brought up Catholic. Both my grandfathers one grandfather has passed away, but both the grandfathers pretty solidly teen don't give a shit. And both the grandmas very solidly teen Catholic. But both my parents left the Catholic Church for their own reasons, whole other stories there. They got together, they actually met at a pagan festival. And my mom had to be the one to call my dad because, like, oh, she wouldn't go for a guy like me. Yes, I can. And so here I am. But it wasn't like it was a big deal for me. Like, they had me going to a Unitarian church when I was growing up, but they were a member of the Olympia Cups group, Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans.
Yep. We had
And that's
too. Yeah.
And so it was just kind of one of those things like, okay, we celebrate Christmas and winter solstice. All right. It's midsummer. Okay. We're going to the parade. Oh, hey, there's naked people here, whatever.
Yeah.
But
So
that was just my life. That was just growing up. So doing this is just kind of plug and play for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of us pagans now are raising pagan children.
Well, one of ours is and one of ours isn't.
Yeah, we have
but
one.
They're both cool with that. They're
Yeah.
just like, one's like, this is cool. The other one's like, I don't care what you guys do. You guys enjoy it. Doesn't speak to me. Well,
Yeah, but
that's
he
cool.
still goes to our open Sabbats and Coven.
He supports us.
He supports us, but it's not the thing. We have one that more identifies as pagan. But I'm saying, if you're raising pagan kids out there, viewers, this is what your pagan children will turn out to be. Now, take that as you will.
Oh, God.
Are you the? Did I just?
She's like, don't make me a poster child.
No pressure.
Poster child.
I just made her a poster child. I just made
Oh, no.
No, we love you, Minty. You're amazing.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you because I'm honest and I got wine in me. Okay, and this is how the show
Vito
goes.
and Vino Veritas.
Yeah, truth serum. I didn't know you very well in the beginning, and we all make snap judgments. Everyone does. Okay, I have people make snap judgments about me. They're like, oh, well, she drinks a lot, she parties a lot. She's just that fun witch. And it's like, yeah, I am, but I also know some shit too. I know how to do some stuff, right? But we all do it. So with you, it's been such a joy watching you and experiencing your power. You are a powerful witch. And I think that I know that has to do with how you were raised. I know that has to do with your power is nurtured. And what are you looking at? Your power is nurtured in your marriage, in your coven, in your church, and I'm always impressed by you. I'm just extremely impressed by when you even just the simplest task of casting a circle. I just go, I feel it. I just feel it, and I love it. So
thank you.
You may be like, oh, I don't want to be a poster child, and nobody wants to be that, but on a serious note, you are terrific at what you do. So embrace that. You're amazing. Darrell, how about you? How did you come to the craft?
So when I was 8 years old, my grandmother, who was Catholic, asked me if I believed in God. The resulting answer made it so my father and my maternal grandmother didn't speak for quite a few years.
Oh no.
I looked at her. Can you prove him scientifically?
And that doesn't surprise me coming from you.
Yeah.
Getting to know you over the last few years.
Yeah.
You have a mind similar to mine.
The thing was, my father didn't want to raise me with being indoctrinated into any faith system. When I am old enough, i.e. 18, I can go out and figure out what I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I spent several years going to different types of churches and whatnot, played around with Golden Dawn, OTO, because, power, magic spells, And then I also ran a BBC, No, BBS.
Excuse me.
Not the BBC. A BBS, electronic bulletin board system,
Okay. Oh, EBS.
in Olympia. And there was a lot of those boards. This is pre-internet. And all the sysops, the system operators, would get together for coffee death. We would go to Catton's, Denny's, or Sherry's and drink coffee all night long.
Yeah, I remember those days.
And I fell in with some people that, you know, fit the witchy vibe and were lining up a Gardnerian teacher so they could initiate and whatnot. So I ended up joining this coven in Olympia called the Spiral Dancers.
Ooh.
And we did all the paperwork, and I set them up with becoming a church. And then I promptly left because I wanted to experiment with things. In Gardnerian, this is the way it's done. But the thing is, because of my heritage and my blood, I wanted to try some, because I was always doing ritual design work. And one of the big ones was, why do we stand on our head with our feet on fire?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we are our own wheel, feet should not be on fire. South should not be the fire. The sun rises in the east. That's fire. The sun is fire. The water is in the west. Air is above us and the earth is below us. Let's try calling the circle this way. Everybody lost their mind. And I was like, oh, you're being too dogmatic. And I threw my hands up and walked out.
Yeah.
And my first archpriestess views me as her success story.
Nice.
Because I walked away.
Yes.
And when I went to the ATC, she wrote a letter saying he's able to run any group that he wants. And of course, Bella's statement is, then why didn't you elevate him? Because he didn't train under me.
Yeah.
He walked out before I could hit him with the elevation stick.
Yeah, I was elevated first degree Gardnerian.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I got married. I bumped around with marriage for like 18 years with somebody that shared my heritage, but was also very possessive. And so that's a long story that can go over that.
Yeah. Over that. Yeah.
So I'm going to college. This thing comes up to me dressed like a nurse from Silent Hill, and I card her because it's Halloween.
Yeah.
And I card her because we got running start students, and I'm not going to talk to somebody who's underage. I'm like, okay, cool. So we start a friendship, ends up later becoming a relationship. We go to Evergreen. At Evergreen State College, a bunch of pagans wanted to form a club, but you can't have religious clubs on campus. So we are a community network club. What we do is help students connect with the community locally to find teachers for their chosen paths.
Nice. Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, because I was in this long marriage, there was some massive witch war that happened in Olympia, and all the teachers said, screw it, and went to ground.
Oh, wow.
So we're like, okay, that Coven thing, that ATC church thing, yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And hard mode.
Yeah, that's one of the big jokes is that the Hearth does everything on hard mode. We get jokingly referred to as priesthood boot camp.
Well, you know what? We're learning that with running our coven is, you know, we have fits and starts, we have successes, we have things that have challenged us and made us reevaluate and become better at how we want to go forward. And so, you know, if it's super easy, you know, like we were saying in our presentation earlier, if the path is straight and flat with no obstacles, what are you going to learn?
Yeah.
You're going to learn that you're going to learn a false narrative that life isn't. We grow from the challenges that we're given.
Yeah.
And so you learn more with what you're not supposed to do than what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I like to look at how other covens run their stuff because I like to pick up, we're still a fledgling coven. I mean, we've only been around for a few years.
Yep.
We're still learning, and we're in a very we have our own witch wars and drama in Spokane that we are
Yeah, I think it's kind of a universal thing though, because so much ego gets involved with whose form of witchcraft is right.
Yeah.
And none of
Yeah.
them. What's
They're
right for
all
you is
right.
right for you.
They're all right.
Yeah, it's why I kind of distanced myself from a long time from a lot of the online community, because there's a lot of just this holier than thou attitude that gets thrown around. It's like, guys, just be nice to each other, please.
Thank you, Minty, for bringing that up, because that's been something I've been struggling with. I never struggled with it before, but I think because I'm being more open and seeking what I want to do with this coven and who we want to be brought to this coven, I'm really paying attention to online, even though I shouldn't. But if you present yourself in a way online that is not what's the word? Respectful. There's just sometimes there's just a lack of respect.
Well,
Oh yeah.
And I'm finding that, and I'm going, we had someone, perfect example, no names, but there's a group online that's local on Facebook, and they were asking about, I've never experienced a coven. I'd like to. And so several people were putting in, well, this is my coven, this is my circle. Excuse me. Hello, wine. And someone looked at a website of a local coven, and they were upset because there were rules about they don't like smokers. Not they don't like, but they prefer you to be a non-smoker, and they prefer that you have your earthly plane
in order.
In order. They took that as, you're judging me because I'm a smoker and you want me to not be poor. And I'm like, no, that is not what that person's saying. And guess what? That person has a right to set guidelines for their coven. And if you don't like the rules,
find another
don't
coven.
join the coven.
Yeah, like
they badmouth this person. And I said that.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking, going, that's a local person looking for a coven. They just badmouthed one of my elders. And they messaged me and said, how's your, and I'm going, no, we're not taking anyone right now.
Yeah.
Because I saw what you did. So yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Minty.
We had something similar happen in the Hearth's very early days. There was an individual who had been looking for a group, and somebody had basically popped in. It's like, careful, there's this group down in the Centralia area who judges people, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you were told that you wouldn't be a good fit because your personality wouldn't mesh well. We're trying to prevent conflict here, and we don't want you to be in a place that would make you uncomfortable or other people uncomfortable. And thankfully, other people within that group stepped in. It's like, you don't get to demand to be part of a group.
Oh, no. The energies have to be right, and that's why there's a filling out process. That's why there's a vetting process. That's why you have your time frame before things happen.
You have to vet, because this is a group that you are practicing, and there's a vulnerability when it comes to magic. You're going to expose parts of yourself that you may not have exposed to anyone else in your life, but you can expose it in that circle, and you're going to share that. You better damn well have some sort of harmony.
Well,
and the high priest and the high priestess have every right to say, this is what we're looking for. If this isn't what you're looking for, guess what? There's other circles.
Yes, there's other well, the perfect love, perfect trust. And then we had, in that same conversation, someone popped up, well, I accept anyone and everyone. Well, then what are you allowing in there?
Where are your boundaries? Because they're starting a new coven, and that's said, you can come to my coven, and because I accept everyone. And I said, and I had to say, I go, you know what? That's great, but being a coven leader myself, that's a slippery slope, and you're just going to end up always trying to please your coven members and not set your.
Yeah.
The thing is, as leaders, we kind of have a hands-off approach to how other leaders wish to, present themselves.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be seen as holier than thou.
Nope.
I'll let you fall on your face yourself, get yourself up. If you want some advice, I'll chat with you about it. But one of the things that I rarely ever do is give unsolicited advice, even online.
Yeah, it's why Lola, you probably noticed this. I'm pretty quiet online in a lot of the pagan groups. It's like, I don't feel the need to be broadcasting myself all over the place. It's like we were talking about earlier before we went live. I'm very much of the opinion that anybody who is bouncing up and down on the hill going, I'm the king, has no business calling themselves king.
Yeah.
I don't feel like advertising myself. I don't feel like giving, I don't feel like giving unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to insert my opinion where it's not welcome.
Yeah.
Well, I've turned off my social media, and I'm much happier, and I feel like I'm a much stronger in my practice because I'm not constantly fighting unnecessary fights, and I'm able to focus my energy where I can actually do good instead of butting my head against a wall expecting a different result when it's it's a sound barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, social media. Here's pictures of the hearth. Here's pictures of the kid.
Yep.
And
I don't post pictures of your kid.
but I have to maintain the social media.
Me too.
Because of people being able to connect.
Yeah.
And that's why she does it.
That's why I do it. But the majority of my Coven members, actually all of them except me, they don't interact on social media.
We've all unplugged.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome feeling because I know for me, I don't have the unnecessary negativity that I was experiencing all the time of just the pointless frustration of a mean tweet, a bad Facebook post from someone who doesn't matter to me.
Yet it affected us.
Yeah, I'm not affected, or I'm seeing the fallout of people I care about get arguing with each other over something that does not matter.
Seeing a divide, seeing arguments. And that's why I try to keep my Facebook very positive. I promote what our Coven's doing. I post positive quotes. I post my celebrations. There have been times when I want to vent on Facebook, and I have been gently reminded that sometimes that's not the best way to do it. And at the time, I'll be like, I can push what I want. But then I realize that's actually really good advice.
Yeah, that's why I gave myself the 48-hour rule very early on in my life. If I'm having a big feeling and feel the need to explode, wait 48 hours, and then you can word out your opinions, because usually it's a lot better. That's why Darrell has sometimes had to kind of feel that. It's like, okay, Minty's been given really bad news. Do not contact her about this for 48 hours. Otherwise, Rome will burn.
Yes, Rome will burn. Well, yeah.
And because of the size of our group, we have social media managers for the platforms. We have a webmaster. We have a marketing department.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
But
I'm doing it all.
yeah.
Well, there's only 5 of you,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. So the other thing is making sure that people have something where they can do their sacred service and feel like they're contributing outside of just rituals and gatherings. So
Yep. That's what we're trying to do now.
we have our weekly meetings. We're starting up monthly marketing meetings. We have every other week officers meetings.
Yeah.
It's meetings.
Meetings. Well, and that's why I say Coven goals, is because I would like to be where I can say, okay, now we have enough people, and it's going to be a while because I got to train these people up, but I can see it happening. But right now, it's really important for me to set boundaries, because I'm not saying I do all the work and no one in the Coven does. I'm just saying, in order for us to get out there and get our name out there and get what we do out there, I do take on a lot of that responsibility, because he works, 2 of our Coven members work. We've got one that's has 500 children. She doesn't really have 500 children, but she
They
might
don't fit in the shoe.
Yeah, exactly. We have one that's elderly and has a husband that has health issues. Okay, so I don't mind doing it, but like even just this baby steps tonight, I said, Silenus, you're running threads of wisdom tonight, so I can take a nap. That's a huge thing for me. That's
Yeah.
huge. And it felt wonderful. But it also meant I trust that he can do it. I know he can do it. And I leave it to him. I don't need to be like, are you sure you need, yeah, you know.
Yeah. So one important thing is focus on training your people up, but don't be afraid to bring others on. That first intern high priestess that was sent to us was very upset with me because we'd get into arguments. Because I'm training people in Wicca.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can't do that. You're not a second degree. Well, I can't have them sitting around waiting for 3 years for me to become a second degree.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta
Well-
break the rules a little, or not break the rules, but
Well, that's
you
what
gotta do what
What-
means to an end.
that's the way we do it
Means
in our
to an
coven,
end.
where I was having to be priest, even though I was still going through initiatory, first degree, all the different paths.
He was
And-
the high priest.
And I was having to be the priest because, well, I'm the one that carrying the male energy.
Yep, and he was
Yeah.
the only guy in the coven
Yeah.
for a long time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's what is needed.
yep,
And it's just that, just get it done.
Yeah.
Don't set unnecessary restrictions on yourself.
yeah,
We are the engine that is driving. Your coven, our coven, all the other covens are the engine that's driving Wicca and witchcraft on a larger scale
yeah,
into the future. Wicca is a baby religion. It
It is.
started back in the 50s.
yeah.
We're
We can
7
still tweak and change and put some of that toxic founder shit off to the side and go this
The
way.
fact of the matter is that all religions, regardless of what they are, need to evolve with the times or they run the risk of becoming obsolete.
Absolutely.
You grow, or you left in the wayside. You
Yeah.
got to adapt to the world.
It's
Isn't that exciting that we get to do that?
it's
I-
okay.
I-
I don't know how familiar you guys are with Through the Looking Glass. It's actually like the sequel to Alice in Wonderland, where most of the Disney movie actually borrowed from that book. But
Yep.
anyway, there's a scene where Alice is running with the Red Queen, and like they're not really getting anywhere, but they're running at breakneck speed. And I was like, it doesn't seem like we're getting anywhere. And the Red Queen's like, well, yeah, you have to keep at this speed just to keep up. If you stop, you're going to be left behind. If you want to go further, you have to go even faster. And I was like, oh, all right, here we go.
Yeah,
Well,
it's so true.
it's the same thing in the Never-Ending Story. When the nothing's coming, they're constantly having to push forward, or else they're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same exact concept. We've seen it in lots of different forms, the written or visual word.
And like I said, in my Capricorn stubborn way, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I still even realize that just because it ain't broke doesn't mean it can't be improved upon. And I have to remind myself that. And so it's evolving. We have to evolve as humans. We have to evolve as clergy. We have to evolve as leaders.
We can't. Oh, yes, there you go. Perfect answer right there.
Whose old ass cell phone was that?
This is actually a landline.
It's a land.
Oh, it's a landline. Okay.
Yes.
It's a requirement of being an affiliate church. We have to have a landline.
Oh, I did not know that.
Now,
Where
granted,
is
every
it?
time someone calls, they're asking about the coconut bar and grill, but
Yeah.
But I wonder if, because we're affiliated but we're not wise, I wonder if that's the separation with that.
No.
We don't know.
We went through every article in the incorporation, and because we're a young group
Yeah.
and we can be the target of a lot of people sitting there going, they're just a bunch of young punks
Yeah.
that don't know anything. We make sure all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to look at the articles of incorporation for the church and what we do, everything is above board.
That's
He
perfect.
handles all the administrative stuff while simultaneously holding back me, going, "I'll show you, young punk."
I handle all the administrative stuff too, and I'm still figuring it out. But that's what this is all about. So we're coming up on I think we're over the
Yeah.
hour.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys, we love you
Yeah.
so much. This ain't just the wine talking. This is the pure Lola Stardust experience. I'm telling you.
Well, and connect with you guys behind the scenes and working with staff and every cast. All the things we got to know you on a much different level than we would have on the superficial. We see you on the sim. We've seen you at festival.
Yeah,
You're pretty cool, but
we've always loved you.
we don't know you.
We've always loved you. We've always felt a connection, and I just want to say, if this, I mean, this doesn't, whatever, take it for what it is. You really do inspire me. Your Coven, your work really inspires me. That's why I go to your rituals online. That's why I interact with you, because I think what you're doing is amazing. And I always say hashtag Coven goals.
Yeah.
So.
And you're one of the ones we frequently talk about is Coven goals.
Yeah, we always tell
Amongst
people.
Just
Yeah,
two of us.
we're just like Coven goals. Anything you want to say before we
Or you want to give a web address to get people in touch with you, which
and we'll put the links in the description as well.
Oh,
You handle that.
it's the evergreenhearth.org.
Okay.
It's
Awesome.
all one word, .org. Our web administrator is a Capricorn.
so should get it done.
You know who she is. She's also one of our most talented astrologers.
Yes. That's Liliana. I know that Capricorn girl. Her and I have bonded on our Capricorn. On our Capricorns, we're a special breed. We get shit done.
One thing I do want to say is you should totally come to Llamas Monologues, because I will be doing a workshop on gardening and our sacred right to grow food.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that.
Unfortunately, we can't be in person.
Well,
leave.
no, it's online.
It's online.
Yeah,
I will be working, and then the day after the monologues end, we are actually flying out of state.
we're going on vacation, but I will be at the Llamas Monologues invoking Balbo. Is that a surprise? Does that surprise you?
Yeah. I don't do the monologues anymore.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of in.
Funny story. The year I was supposed to do my elemental, I was going to do air.
Aragorn.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Air, I'm the messenger. You put your messages into me and I bring them to you. I am the messenger of pollution and I bring your death.
Oh, oh my
No.
God.
No, you sit down.
Bella's like, no.
The cat is amazing.
No.
What is your sign, Darrell?
Pisces
Oh,
with a Leo moon.
Oh, see, I'm Leo rising.
And my little baby girl
Yeah,
is a Leo.
of course she is.
Pisces moon.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. And by the way, your guys' daughter makes me like miss my kids when they were babies. Because that girl performed. Like, she stole the show on Spring Mysteries. I'm just saying, like, that girl stole the show. She was amazing. Reaching up for mom. It was amazing. And
The crown, Mama.
yes, I want the crown. And I love seeing the evolution of your guys' relationship and becoming parents. It's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely beautiful, and I absolutely adore it. And thank you so much for being on our show. And it's for those of you that are watching that are interested in what we do. If you want to be a guest, if you have ideas for our show, if you just have questions, you can email us at
crossroadscoven@gmail.com.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
That was crossroadscoven@gmail.com.
Remember, everyone, please be so wonderfully kind to each other. Always walk with the goddess. And until next time, blessed be. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next week. Bye.